Hi everyone, unless you've been living under a rock, I suspect you know of the director Quentin Tarantino, and you've most likely heard of his film The Hateful Eight. Now he wanted to film this in the Ultra Panavision 70mm film. The reason being is this gave his film a really wide aspect ratio, so much so that it's the widest aspect ratio known to film. It's only been used a handful of times before Quentin Tarantino used it, and it's not been used since. Now the reason I talk about this is because you can now capture this aspect ratio organically through Beastgrip Pro's 1.55x anamorphic lens MK2 version. Now with this lens you get a 37mm thread at the back, which you have a back cap for, which screws on nice and easily. Really nice little touch there. And then at the front of the lens you can see we've got these two pinch-in points for the front cap of the lens. This is all included in the price, you don't have to buy this extra. You also get a nice cloth as well to clean your lens, a nice silk drawstring bag as well, and if you have Beastgrip's 58mm filters, they also provide, included with the price of this lens, a 62 to 58mm step down ring as well for your filters. Now, as you can see already, these images look absolutely stunning out of the Beastgrip Pro's 1.55x anamorphic lens. They are absolutely beautiful. Now, I've not color graded these shots at all. How you're seeing them now is how they came out of the camera straight away with the correct white balance. That's all consistent through every single shot. So what you see is what you get with the lens. Now, as you can see, the aspect ratio of the 2.76x1 is absolutely mammoth compared to any other lens. And I'm including the 1.33x anamorphic lens of any variety in that too. The amount you can fit in one shot is absolutely insane. You can tell stories in a way that you've never been able to tell before. You can make subjects look really isolated. You can still make them look really big if they're close up. You can make an area look really crowded and make it look like there's a party going on when normally you could only show a few people with a wide angle lens. It has so much movement in a shot. And you can also make people look really tiny and insignificant in a shot as well, which is a really powerful tool when you're using for storytelling. Now there's an experiment I just wanted to show you guys, and that is the difference between using visually a 16:9 average wide angle lens from your iPhone or Android phone, the 1.33x anamorphic lens by Moment, which I'm showing you right now, and later on in a moment, the anamorphic lens of Beastgrip, the 1.55x anamorphic. Now at the moment, the 1.33x is a really beautiful lens and gives you a nice wide angle shot, but when we go to the 1.55 anamorphic of Beastgrip, you can see you get a much wider shot here. And you can just fit so much more into the frame, it's ridiculous. Now, when you go into the comparison of them all side by side, it's much easier to visualize. You can see how much more the 1.55 is de-squeezed compared to the 1.33, and especially, of course, compared to the wide angle. Now, with these shots, you can see the difference as well in actual real-time shots. If you're making a film, a narrative film of some sort, you can see with this carousel, that in itself is a really nice shot. But when you add the 1.55x anamorphic, you get a much more powerful and cinematic look as well. And something you notice instantly with a lens like this is that it completely and instantly ups the budget value of your production. Now it makes it just look such high quality, and you're not going to get that with any other type of lens. But this extent that you get with the anamorphic at 1.55x is something that I've never seen before, and I've had a lot of fun using this lens as well, a lot of fun. So let's take a look at the lens flares of this beast, pun intended, of this lens. Now they're really subtle, I found, and really beautiful. The way they kind of streak across the skies, there's a really cinematic sort of feel and quality to it. And you get this with our anamorphic lenses, but you don't get it to this extent. And it just looks really organic as well. It's not like the severe blue flares that you get in some of the cheaper lenses on the market today. This has a real high quality, sort of real, trying to avoid saying it, but cinematic feel to it. And when you go to a cinema, this is the kind of flares you expect to see in a film. When we stop it here and go slower across this fence, you can see that the different colours are popping on these flares as well. You've got sort of pinkish hue to the left, then a turquoise, a purple, more of a yellow warmer colour to the right. It's amazing how the colours kind of dance across the screen. And you don't really get that with any other anamorphic lens that I've tried at least. And I just was really impressed by the flares on this, and they look really natural and they just look absolutely stunning. And it's something that will look really fantastic on anyone's project. Oh, and by the way, if you're enjoying this, do hit that subscribe button and like button. It really helps the channel grow. Now at this point, you're probably wondering, okay, it sounds perfect, but is there any drawbacks? And there is actually one drawback, and it's more due to the fact that you're using such a wide aspect ratio. And that drawback is that you cannot use inbuilt stabilization from your phone with this lens. And that is because with such a wide aspect ratio, with the stabilization, it actually creates a wibbly wobbly effect on the screen. That's a technical term, wibbly wobbly. And I saw that quite a lot on a few images I had when I was going handheld, especially when I was moving the phone. So a lot of the time I was just going handheld with the Beastgrip Pro rig, which I'm using now with this iPhone, and just moving steadily like this. If I started to walk forward, or if I started to do any quick movements, it really became quite exaggerated. So that's something to consider when buying this lens, is that you won't be able to use the inbuilt stabilization on your phone with this lens. So what are the workarounds? Well, basically, you either want to put it on a tripod so it's nice and steady, which I use for a few of these shots, use it handheld but stay still so you get your shots, or lean it on your environment, which I did quite a few times during this shoot, so that you get nice steady shots as well. And you can use a hybrid gimbal, so you can use your Beastgrip Pro rig, the lens, the phone filters, all in one big built gimbal, and that way you can turn the stabilization off on your phone and get really smooth, stable shots, as Beastgrip do in their promo videos. So whilst that is a bit of a setback, it is one that has a lot of workarounds. Now, like with a lot of anamorphic lenses, if not all of them, you're gonna get some barrel distortion towards the edges. Now that's basically where the image starts to curve at the left and right side of your shots, but you can correct that on iOS devices at least, via Cinema P3 Pro camera app. So let me show you quickly how I do that. So in Cinema P3 Pro camera app, you simply select which anamorphic lens you're using, in my case the 1.55, and below it there's a toggle for correction of distortion. So you turn that on, and then when you go back into your shot, you've now got a feature button which you can use to correct your distortion. Now we've got the menu up for distortion correction, and as you start to move the x-axis, the horizontal axis, you can see it's starting to just straighten out a little bit, particularly in the top left corners. Now when we start moving the y-axis, it becomes more visible and you start to see the whole image change. So changing that vertical axis, you can see the line at the top of the building there straightening out really nicely. You cannot do this, that I know of, on any other smartphone filmmaking app other than Cinema P3 Pro camera, which I can't recommend enough. Now, one of the trickiest things about an anamorphic lens is getting the focus perfect. It's quite different to using the native wide-angle lens of your iPhone or Android, and Beastgrip Pro do advise that you use the best focus at about 3 feet away from the lens, which is about where I am right now. However, when I get up to about a foot away, you can see that the focus is still really, really good. As I move further away, it stays at a high level. Now, of course, that focus does sort of dissipate as you get to the edges of your image. That's to be expected. That's a whole part of what an anamorphic lens does. However, you can maintain really good focus if you get really close to a lens if you use something called a diopter filter. Now, if you want to learn more about what this is, I would like to make a video on this at some point, so let me know in the comments down below if you'd be interested in hearing about that filter. Now, this external smartphone filmmaking lens is at the very height of prices for the lenses at £172. It did make me think twice about doing this video because I wasn't sure if people would be interested, but actually now having used it, I do genuinely think that this is worth it. It's one of the best lenses, if not the best quality lens that I've ever used. The build of it is absolutely sensational. The images speak for themselves. You get in the widest aspect ratio possible on a smartphone. It's just insane, and I do genuinely think that it is worth that price, and I cannot recommend it enough. Of course, there is a link in the description below if you want to check it out. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, I highly recommend you check my comparison video between the Moment's 58mm telephoto lens and Sandmarc's 58mm telephoto lens. See you on the next one, take care, bye bye.